Just Branding. The podcast.
Hello and welcome to Just Branding. Today we have Frederick and Erik Kockum of SNASK, a kick-ass creative agency based out of Sweden. They are, I quote from their website, doctors of disturbance, wizards of disruption, and spokesmen of disobedience. As you'll soon come to realize, these guys do things a little bit differently, and we love it. Today, we're going to be talking about brand strategy and how to build culture. And yeah, we'll get into it. So welcome to the show, fellas.
Thank you. Happy to be here, guys.
Awesome. So first off, SNASK, what is that? Tell us, what's the name, where that name come from?
Well, we actually, we were studying in the UK and before we started the agency, of course. And in the UK, we were talking a lot about eye candy at university. And we thought like, well, since we're not moving back to Sweden, we were thinking about moving to New York or London to do the agency. We were like, oh, let's choose an old Swedish name that means candy, filth, and gossip all in one word. And it's a disgusting sounding word in Swedish. We were like, oh, it's easy to remember. SNASK, SNASK off, sweet mother of SNASK, you SNASK me, etc. And so we did. And in the end, we decided to move back to Sweden where everyone knows what it means. So that's basically
Why is it a disgusting word?
Yeah, Erik, why is it disgusting?
Yeah, why?
I don't know. No, but it's just like, it just sounds a bit dirty. I don't know. It's like SNASK.
Like snooze.
Yeah.
Snooze, yeah. So I used to live in Sweden actually for a year in Gothenburg. But I don't really remember much. That was back when I was 18, so it's quite a while ago. But we'll get back on track. You guys are known for some pretty awesome creative projects, right? So I'd love to know, what's top of mind for you guys in terms of a creative project. And the one for me, it's like your shower beer project. But I'd love to hear a little bit about your work and perhaps your personal favorites, just so people can get a taster of your, flavor when it comes to branding and design.
I think that we build a lot of brands no matter what we do. If it's film or communication, or if it's actually brand strategy or design, it's always about building a brand and making it come to life. I think we have many favorites, but one of our favorites is also Klarna. We worked with them for 3 years. And we built a visual world, and Erik worked loads on this and trying to build like their brand world without actually saying anything, like trying to sell anything, but actually give the viewer a feeling of the brand and make it kind of spectacular, give it like almost like unreal proportions and things that happens, expectations. And I think that's something that is really interesting when you look at our portfolio. It kind of riffs off with almost every project, but I think Klarna is like one of the best in building that, like making that brand come to life.
They also had good budgets.
Of course.
But but it is true. Like, I mean, I think it's hard for us sometimes to single out like a project that we like, oh, this one, we're so proud of that one, or whatever, because we've been working more of a overarching direction, I think, of the work we do, and have like a bit of a style or an attitude in everything. And so when we can do that, it can be a bank over there, or some food product there, or a music festival, or it can be anything. I think that we go in with the same type of values in what we want to create and how to do it. And so when we get to do that fully, I mean, we enjoy ourselves. Like, we have that Malmö festival thing that we did some couple of years back, where we tried to or created like the world's largest poster, where we like basically designed the poster like you do normally, maybe, in the digital world, and then we like just took it out and we built it gigantic for real, like took photos of it high up with a sky lift, and then it became also like an area in the festival, like a physical area, and so on. And yeah, it's that type of stuff is fun. Like,
we also just rebranded Bang & Olufsen, and Erik just shot to film a new music video for the Hives. So it's like very different projects, but we try and bring in like our creativity and our way of working into any project, basically.
So you mentioned that everything like feels like very different in the worlds and the kind of the visual environments that you create. How do you get to that point? Like, is it very much what come from almost like an artist from like within like what you feel like could be different and work in this space, or do you work more strategically? Do you get research done? Like, how do you kind of start to think through like, okay, I'm going to build a visual environment that's very individual. What's your first sort of steps in the process to think that through?
I think it's both. The boring answer is both. No, but like, because we have like something that we enjoy, and like I said, like a style and an interest that we, that came from when we studied or before, an interest that sort of we connected with SNASK, and then like started to do that and explore that more and more in different ways. And that is maybe, bold graphics, colorful, a lot of like physical outputs, like from like, removing using the computer used as a tool, and then like taking it further. But then like, what do we do for this exact project or client or whatever? I mean, there's the research and the ideation, as as I think many people do. In we always try to find like smart solutions, that we didn't know before we started the project. So to say, I know some people that we know in the industry, and like that are maybe sometimes in the same world, like of style, and so they have like big fat notebooks where they have like sketches of loads of ideas, and then when they like start a project, like for any client more or less, they start going through their sketches, and they like, oh, this one maybe could be cool here. We don't work like that at all. We start, we're stupid, and we start from a blank page each time. It feels like it's so I think, yeah.
Erik, so just to continue on with that, so let's say for our listeners, designers or entrepreneurs who are running their own business, what would the process look like for you, right? You have these bold, wacky, fun, like vivid projects as the output, but how are you getting there? Like, what's the process in terms of understanding the brief and getting the client to, I guess, sign on with this wacky idea or big, bold idea? Like, what does that look like for an agency like SNASK?
One thing that we do with most of our clients is it's like a workshop, like almost like a full day workshop, where we dig into what they want and their visions and and their goals, and there we have the chance to infuse that with like more ideas or taking it further. Like, we challenge them a lot. And then this classic thing becomes, that we make them say it, right? So we just like, but what about this? What about that? And then they're like, yeah, we should do this. And then they start doing it. And that's it. So, I mean, we want it to come from them. We can't just go and do something over here and they have no clue, or they don't want that or whatever. So, I mean, that's one way to like align, but then it's also, from the start, it's all about the ambition and the budgets and all of that. They need to align. I mean, some people come with loads of money. They have no ambition. That's not fun. We don't know what to do then. Some people come with loads of ambition. They're like, we're going to take over the world. And then we're like, yes. And then like, but we won't spend any money on it, and then it's like, and we can't do anything with that either, So, I mean, it's like, you need to have the right, let's say, set up the possibility to do something, and then we start with that. And then I think our process, I mean, we do the normal thing. We sit and talk, we spread out, we come together again, we think and I think the only thing that you need is time. I mean, you need time to be able to figure something out, and especially try it. I mean, if you want to be creative and try to come up with something original or new, you need time to do things wrong. and then try it out. Oh, this didn't work. Okay, let's try something else, and so on. So if you have that, I think it's possible to do something good.
So what kind of time do you like to work to? What sort of time, what's your sort of, if it was an ideal world, Erik, and it was a good brand with loads of money and said, right, I need a new visual world that I need you to create for our brand. Like, what kind of time would you take? As much time as they give you, or like, what's your ideal sweet spot?
Great question. Is this a request? Can I I will 2 months ish. It's a good start for something. I would say, but it also depends on what we're delivering. Like what are we talking about? It is so, but I would say that almost always the client have a too short time plan. At least connected to their ambition, and then it depends on, are we building a brand, or is it more straight onto a more creative concept, or again, if it's a film production, then it's where you have more a classic structure, and you go through this sort of steps that are kind of clear what to create and what to present. If it's more an open, what can we do, then you need more time, But I think to just have the best, Freddie mentioned Klarna, when we did some of the Klarna stuff, especially the earlier Klarna stuff we did, then we had so much time because they gave us that and we asked for it. So we had really a couple of months of just ideating, we could really try out things and do, redo and so on. And that was unusual. And I remember how I felt oh, this actually became really good because of all the time we had to spend on it until we had the chance to redo. What do you say, Freddie? Do you have
a sweet spot when it comes to time?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it has to do with the project. It can be a great client that agrees with us on everything and we don't need to push them, and then it could go really fast, or the opposite way. Yeah. I think comparing it to a race, even though the client is we want to run 100 meters really fast. Yeah, but if you just do that instantly, you will probably injure yourself on the way, and you won't, though you don't have the right expectations, ambitions, etc. So basically the whole workshop thing is a warm up for the race, and that gives us the chance to actually push them and actually make them realize that maybe you aren't the fastest in the world today. And if you want to be world class, it won't just take 5 minutes. It will take a long time, and we need to push you. We need to work on your agility, etc., etc. So it's just making them realize that what they are today is not right, and what they want to be might not be right either, but where they should be, that, and compare that to reality, and then you put it out in a timeline and see, wait a minute, this will probably take 3 months to complete. And then it becomes more tangible for them to understand, okay, it's not just something that is already in their heads, it's a teamwork that we need to find out as a team, all of us.
And one thing to add on that is okay, many clients come and they just we need this on that day. Can you do it? Otherwise we can't, we go to someone else or something. And the answer on that is yes, we can do it. That's not the problem, because we are so experienced that we could create something in less than that. We can create something this week, or it's just just do something, but then it will be something that we have already sort of done. We can't be create something completely crazy new and original. No, we will have to go to our experience then and do the things that we know work, and
that's a really interesting notion, isn't it? That you'd have to go, to do something new, you almost have to break out of what you know and go into somewhere that's never been gone before, and you almost have to push that forwards in a very uncomfortable kind of dramatic way. Whereas if you're working at extreme pace, what you're saying is that doesn't give you any space to kind of do those unusual things, because you just fall back naturally on what you know will work because you have to hit that deadline. I get that. I think that's really a really interesting insight there into the kind of the creative mind. Awesome.
I think it's like in a relationship, like every man who goes out on Valentine's Day after work, 5 o'clock, they go to the flower shop. There's already a long line of guys who didn't think about what they're gonna do on Valentine's Day. They all like buy that rose, or 3 or 10 if you're richer. You come home and then maybe the missus gets like, oh, this is the only thing you did. You didn't actually think about it. And that's the thing. Like if you don't give time to think about things going wrong, doing like things, then you will just go for the first thing that pops up in your mind. And creatively, it's not very creative. Sometimes you have to do it, but it's much more fun, of course, to allow your mind to wander and do weird things instead. And in the end, it will probably end up somewhere better and more fun.
So let's talk a little bit more philosophically, if I may just ask another quick question. So why is that important for creative work and brands to go somewhere unusual and somewhere different? What's your take on differentiation and being different? What's your thoughts on the value of that?
Well, it brings us into an interesting subject. Thank you for that, Matt. I think that like the ordinary way people think and brand strategists and communicators think that, we need to ask people what they want all the time. The target group always knows what they want and we need to ask them. But the truth is that they have no clue what they want or need. And that's why Apple never asked us if we wanted an iPhone, because they would never have created it, because we are basically very basic monkeys who can maximum take one thing, add it to another thing that exists and say like, wow, we have a new thing here. But iPhone was so many steps forward because they didn't listen to us. The car wasn't a faster horse, which was what people would have asked, like told Henry Ford if he asked them. And that's the thing. Like, I think that's why we need to step into the visionary and the innovative side of us ourselves. Instead of asking people what they want, we need to trust in expertise. And that expertise in our field is creation, innovation. That's where it comes from. And no one can measure that. No one can like say that this innovation will give this result. You can't do that. So in that way, it's uncharted territory every time you create something. But it's also very interesting. And once you learn to live in that territory, if you become more comfortable in doing mistakes, going the wrong path, and it's fine. So I think that's like philosophically where I would take the discussion.
We're talking about creativity and we kind of settled on time being a key point. Money, budgets, obviously. Is there anything else you would add to the mix for, to be creative, to be visionary, to be innovative?
I think that would be, then we may be coming into culture and things like that.
Yeah,
you need
segue.
The right place, and we say like the right culture at the workplace. You need like the right type of relationships and feeling of freedom, and that you're able to express yourself, etc., etc. I think it's again, that can connect to time and everything of that, but like to create that type of work environment where you are allowed to make mistakes, basically, I think is the key in that. There's so much like pressure sometimes in our industry to be such elite, and like, you need to be the best and deliver and show all this like amazing stuff, and there is a lot of like ego going around too, of course, and so it can be tough to even get people to share what they are working on, or like to show something that isn't done, or so I think it goes both ways, that you need to both like in a nice way create an environment where you basically push people a little bit to share and to show what they're doing and dare to do it, but then of course turn it around and make them feel comfortable as they do it, so it's very common when people get stressed and so on, that we start like, no, that won't work, or I don't like that, or because we're like, again, like we're seeing this deadline or whatever, and but like to try to create a environment where we more like support and say yes and try things, and and that freedom, that feeling of freedom, I think that's when everyone can get creative. Because if you feel free, it's almost like if we would talk about any type of idea now, like, oh, we need to create a ad for this podcast or something, and we would start talking about ideas, then we would we would start filtering immediately, all of us, like, but I can't say that, or maybe that's weird, or they will think something weird about me if I say too much here, or whatever, and that's the type of thing that like can stop a really good creative process too, that you start thinking too much about like, how it looks, or how what other people would think. That's why sometimes maybe you work better at home sometimes, because you're more like you don't have that feeling. But if you feel like you're allowed to do things, then I think anyone can create anything. It's we're creative every day in our lives, doing taking a faster route to the bus station is creative, but maybe you weren't supposed to take that route, but you found it on the way,
Yeah. So it kind of comes down to trust, right? Just being like trusting your teammates and trusting that you'll get to the solution, and having a open environment, open culture where you're not, put in a time crunch, or, in a place where you feel uncomfortable or unsafe. What are your thoughts on that, Frederick?
For sure. I mean, I think that's super important to have that in the team. And as Erik said, sometimes you can be afraid of saying an idea because it is stupid, or it isn't polished. It isn't a diamond yet. And if you voice it, it might be shot down by people because it's not perfect. Or, for example, like following trends or showing a design that maybe isn't trendy. And I think that we are trying in our culture to do non-trendy things, and not like anti-trend. We just feel like, let's not listen too much to trends. Let's not listen to what other people think all the time, and let's try and create something from within us. And from within us, it comes from our loved ones, our partners, our friends, our pets, our family, movies we watch, even bad ones, TV series, the books we read, music we listen to. And in that sense, you get inspiration from within and from your world around you. Not only culture at work, but also, as Erik said, culture at home, or the freedom of being at home where no one else is watching you all the time, etc., etc. And if we see we see this in other parts, like people who are professionals taking inspiration from other parts than their own, like the NASCAR driver who won the race because he had watched people on a NASCAR video game, driving in full speed towards the wall, using the wall of the video game in a NASCAR race to go past everyone and then win the race. And in the real race, he was third, and he asked, I'm going to try this. So he went against the wall, and the whole car started scratching, full blast, and he drove past the two other ones, and he won. And everyone afterward asked him, like, did you watch the video game? And he's like, yeah. I watched the video game and I thought, why not? It should work. And it's interesting because he didn't only look at how other drivers did it. He was like, let's look at how other people don't do it, and how do people do it in video games, etc. That's super interesting. And you can say FIFA, the football game, lots of young people are taking inspiration from how the players are doing, like step overs and shoots and things like that from a video game. It's kind of interesting, taking inspiration from other things than like reality.
So it's also interesting, this notion of freedom, because I think if you were to say, I used to run creative teams, and I always used to say to everyone, like, that fear dispels creativity, right? If you are fearful, then you're not going to share that idea because you're going to feel like restricted and judged, and you're not going to allow it to give birth, or you're not going to give birth to it, at least publicly. You're just going to think it. And I used to say to my teams, look, this is a place where you shouldn't be afraid of anything. Like nobody shuts anyone down. Like even if you think it's the stupidest idea that anyone has ever had, then just keep your mouth shut and listen, right? Because actually it's those stupid ideas that actually turn out to be the really exciting ones, the really different ones, the really bold ones. And I think that kind of, just to bring it back to the philosophical, if you like, just bring it up, and to think that through. Like, I think we notice what is different. We, as consumers, as people that kind of, buy products and buy into brand experiences, we notice what's different and we crave the difference, because what a lot of businesses do, and I don't know if you see this a lot, but this is in my experiences, you get a new startup in a particular category, and instinctively, usually what folks do is go, oh, who's number one? And they look at what they're doing and then they go, I want to be like them. And the amount of times I've heard like people say, well, I want to be a bit like Apple, right? You're just like, just come on. Like that's been done. That was done 10, 15, 20 years ago. What's the next thing, right? Why Apple was brilliant was because of this kind of really kind of sort of strict minimalism that they sort of brought to bear on all of their communications and then into their products to try and make things simple and easy. And I get that the usability wise, that's good, but positioning, you can't compete with that now. It's dominating, right? So there's what's next, and stop looking at the number one leader in your category and start thinking about, well, your aim shouldn't be to follow, right? If you've really got something radical, if you've got some amazing product or amazing new brand that you want to kind of put out there, your job is to lead, not follow. And when you want to lead, you need to do that in everything, in the way you communicate, in the experience, in the product, in all of the touch points that you produce. And then, as I say, actually in what you're doing, the way you're doing it. If you then fall back on, hey, this comfort thing, you want to play it safe, then ultimately you're going to be less effective. I'm not going to say you're not going to be successful, because there's plenty of brands that are successful by that kind of strategy. But I think if you really want to make bold moves, you've got to get uncomfortable, and that's where the work that you guys do is super exciting, because what I see is this bravery and individualism that kind of runs through what you do, and that's why it's super interesting to hear you talk about freedom, Erik, and that individualism comes from that culture of freedom. How often though do you pitch ideas and clients get completely freaked out? And you have to kind of convince them of that. Does that happen a lot, or do you find people are coming to you now because you've become, renowned for this type of work? How do you find it? How much persuasion do you have to do?
No, but that's a great question. I think we've gone through different phases. Basically, it's been so maybe some years back. Then we had to really like sell these ideas, and we had to convince, and we had to really do that whole process of getting people on board. And then, we were very, very strict with like what type of work we showed in our portfolio and so on during these years. So then it started to shift a little bit, that like people saw us for the work we did, and therefore they approached us. So suddenly we started on a different like platform. We were like, they were more like expecting. We even had clients that came to us and be like, we want to be like you. Like, can you create us like to be like a brand of SNASK? And we were like, okay, that's
Jacob gets that all the time, don't you, Jacob? People just want to be like Jacob. I want to be like Jacob. No, that's amazing. Yeah. So you almost like led by example, right? So folks were looking at what you were going, I want some of that.
Exactly, but then that also became weird, because like that's why can we do the SNASK thing? Because we have total freedom there from our point of view. If we come up with an idea, me and Freddie or someone else that's like talks about something, then we're like, yes, let's do that, and then it's being done. It goes so quickly, and we even we had some clients that were serious about that thing, that they were like, we are like you, we can be like you, and we were like, we don't think so, but let's try it then. And then we came up with a couple of those type of ideas that you take out, different. And then they were like, oh, yeah, but I don't know but how will they think about this from the, and then we're like, see, you can't be us, and they, and then, yeah, and then it became like a normal project in the end anyway. But like, so, I mean, that is hard. And then today, I would actually say that we sometimes we have a struggle that now it feels like a little bit like our name as an agency has become bigger now a little bit, so we get recommended to people and so on, just for being like, oh, you should work with SNASK or check them out, or people just hear about us somehow, and then they approach us and they don't really know about that style or that, so they think we're a little bit fun. They sort of notice that, but they still don't really know that type of direction of work we've been doing. So then it's like it's almost starting over again, that we now need to again sell in the whole sort of direction of the things that we do and like why we do it and so on. So it's like almost like starting over again, but in a different way. So yeah, it is difficult. It is definitely difficult, and I think like generally like that's what we do with, like we mentioned that workshop, we mentioned those like process stuff. That's like we just need to really like do it thoroughly to get people on board and feel like they are like, okay, they know why we're doing this, and we can always like step back and be like, remember you said this and this and these things, like. Do you think that, what would those people back there say about these ideas now and so on?
Yeah, and I think that unpredictability, what you talked about, Matt and Erik, I think it's interesting also with the future lying ahead us with AI, because everything that is predictable in creativity, in work, everything that is predictable, an AI, because we will all have AI assistants soon in our private life, in our work life, everywhere. Everything that is predictable, an AI can basically do. An AI can fill up our fridge with what we normally like and what we normally eat. But giving us a surprise is kind of hard for it. And being human is not about being predictable. Being human is more about using that unpredictability. That's why we evolved as a species. And I think everyone is born with it, but society slowly strangles us and tells us, grow up, get a job, do this, whatever. But I think that we all have that, and the unconventional ideas, the unpredictability, that's also what's going to separate you from an AI's like work, for example, in 5 years. Being able to give a client an idea that isn't conventional. But how do we measure this? And is there a predicted success? No, it isn't. It would most likely be very different, but that's the genius, that's a nice part about it. And that's Apple, actually. That's what they did. They didn't ask people before. Now it's minimalistic and it's done. But when they came out, it was very they did not ask anyone and they just went for it.
I want to take a little bit of a left turn here. And, you guys are very focused on vulnerability and empathy, which kind of ties back into it. So did you want to share your approach, with those topics and your work?
I think that everything that we do now, when we started out, we were pretty young, 16 years ago. We thought we were on the top of the world, but no one had discovered us yet, etc., etc. With a lot of insecurities buried in beneath us that felt like, oh, hope no one understands that we don't know anything. And we tried to kind of hide that and instead run as fast as we could away from that. And I think the older we get, the more we realize and stopped running from it. And actually, we realized, I think, that we can use that vulnerability. We can use those weaknesses, or it's not weaknesses, those human aspects are the most fun. Yeah, it's more honest, it's more genuine. That's where most interesting ideas comes from. That's where you can speak to someone else's heart. It's we work a lot with finance, and a lot of clients, when they come to us, say that, we need to be a trustworthy brand. Okay, what does that mean? It means suits, it means being serious, being very like this and that, square and boxed in. But when we ask them, can you name the 5 people in your world that you trust the most? Yeah, it's my mom and dad, my partner, my sister, etc. Okay, and is it because they walk around in suits and being very square and professional all the time? No, it's because they're vulnerable, because they make mistakes, they're human, they accept you exactly who you are, your true dirty self. That's what gives and builds trust. And instead, in our industry, it tends to be thinking the other way around. That it's like, no, it's not that. It's like when Klarna used Snoop Dogg as their ambassador, every bank in the world thought like, oh my God, this is so bad because people will think they're so unprofessional. People didn't give a shit about that Snoop Dogg. It was just a positive thing. Oh, fun that they use Snoop Dogg. By the way, I'm going to check out here. Oh, Klarna. Yeah, I'm going to use them. I mean, so it says trust, vulnerability, all these things, being genuine, I think also is something that we're going to see brands having to work into. They have to be more genuine. I'm not saying pinkwashing, greenwashing, but they actually have to start caring about the world for real. And most brands are like, oh, we care about the world, but what do you mean? Do we need to care about the world for real? And I think that yes, very soon you need, not only as a brand, but also as a company, care for the world for real.
We always say about us a bit like that we built a brand on mistakes, sort of like because we like Fred said, when we were younger, so we were so like trying to find our way, but we quite quickly understood that like the only way was our way, so to say. We didn't look at other people. We just got frustrated with the industry and the conservative world and everything, and then we started to do it. Or we went through, if we had some idea about something, we were like, let's do it, let's try it on everything, and then many of those ideas were really bad, and they were like, and there were things that we quickly realized that like, oh shit, this became the opposite effect than what we thought, and so on. But that created our own thing, and we can, like, both of us can look back. If if we would talk about something that happened 10 years ago, like, oh, but why did you guys choose to do that and that? I can explain exactly why, because I know we discussed it and we came to a conclusion, and then, okay, it was the wrong idea, but like, I know exactly why. It wasn't like, oh, because some old guy told us that we, didn't, that we had to listen to or something. And I think that's also part of this whole thing, that like we're very like we're like happy to talk about those mistakes and like share them and whatever, and say that other people should do it too.
But I think it's very important.
They don't listen to us.
Yeah, I think it's important also as men, because we were brought up, at least me and Erik probably in Sweden, but many other people as well around the world, in a kind of macho way, where our fathers didn't speak about emotions or even connected to emotions. And we can see today, like with all the shootings, it's not women running around, I'm going to jump into this car because I'm so angry and I can't handle my emotions. All these things has to do with like guys not being able or taught to like how to feel, how to express emotions, how to talk and being vulnerable about emotions, and being able to lean on a friend's shoulder and talk about hard things. And I think those are super important things. And it comes back to branding, it comes back to design, everything that we do has to do with empathy and being able to show and receive empathy. And I think it's very, very important, also in any industry.
That's really interesting, that kind of psychological kind of aspect to what you've just said there about being male in today's world, and I think it's really tough. I mean, if you go back, even 200-300 years, to be male was something very different to what to be male is today, right? And I actually, I keep bringing it up to some philosophical level, but you kind of did, Frederick, so I'm going up there as well. But like, I think almost like to be male has, facing a kind of an identity crisis. Like, what does that mean? Like, we used to be like, okay, we're the stronger sex, right? So that automatically put us in a place where everybody relied on the men to go out and fight the wars, to go get the food, to go make the houses, to build the roads, anything physical, practically, really physical, men got on with. But then as time's gone on, now we've got technology, right? And also, women obviously through technology, through contraception and the pill and all that stuff, are not as vulnerable perhaps as they used to be. Absolutely not. And so we're now in a position where to be a woman is slightly different as well. So we're as a species, I think we're in this kind of really warped kind of place. And I don't know if we've got all the answers, but I definitely know that what you just said there about having some a way of dealing with some of these kind of conundrums. I think I meet a lot of men and they feel very lost. Very lost. They're not sure. They're not sure who they are anymore. If they step too far to the right, they're overly aggressive. If they step too far to the left, they're too soft. It's very hard to get that balance.
I think but that's really interesting, and I think it's like I think it's the issue might be that we are searching so hard to find a belonging or like some type of, we want to put on a headline on something and have like the explanations, like what if being male was just being human, whatever, like you could be anything. Do we even need to, I mean, I don't want to take it too far now, but like, why do we have this need to call like what's being male, what I mean? Because it's actually, is that so important though? Like, but then I understand that, like, yeah, so people search for belonging, people want to know, people want to follow something. That's why we have fucking religion, or, that's in our industry. Why, when you show a logo, the first thing people do is to think of another logo that it looks like, because people just need to have some type of like reference and something to hold on to, and that's how we work, but like I think the best thing would just be like if you could just be anyone, we don't need to put you in any type of box, but if you choose to go more the values of like that strong man, or like, yeah, fine, do that. If you want to go and be something completely else, then like, yeah, do that too. And it's the same for females. Like today you can go and be a fireman or whatever you now call, but it's like, even if you're a woman and stuff like that, and it should be like, as much as we can, just make it like an open, free choice. I think, I'm not saying it's easy, but it would be nice.
I think that instead of like being man and being a woman, trying, if we could be free and like I'm a human instead, and because I think it's so much in these gender stereotypes that we put, and as a man, if you go too soft and you hear a girl saying, I don't want a too soft guy, you see, girls don't want that, they want the aggressive, angry guys. And no, you get it all wrong, and we kind of judge ourselves and we kind of believe everything we hear from other people, but they are also stuck in the same system. And I think also the thing with, like, if a girl says that she doesn't like a too soft guy, it doesn't have to mean that she likes aggressive guys. It just means that she maybe wants a guy who can put limits and is responsible for his own feelings. And that's not the same thing as, it's not the opposite of being aggressive. It's like, it's just a person who's like, okay, I can be a nice guy, but I'm gonna put down my foot when it comes to my emotions, or take responsibility of how I feel. But that doesn't mean that this is an aggressive guy, for example. So I think it's also so many complex things. And now I think I'm gonna blame TikTok because I don't like it, but they're spreading this Andrew Tate thing with guys. In Texas, most girls are pro-abortion, but most young guys are anti-abortion, which is like, it's crazy how this is happening, and what this is going to do to the world when these girls won't date those guys and those guys won't date those girls, and what's going to happen in the world when we have like very segregated society and based on all toxic norms. Yeah.
Wow. We definitely took a deep dive into that. It was not where I was expecting this. I was just thinking as we were speaking about this, like I've seen you guys, speak. It was kind of like more of a performance when you guys, were on stage. it was complete opposite of these conversations we're having. Like right now we're pretty civilized and sitting down in our plain clothes, but like when I've seen you guys perform, it's always like bright, fun outfits, and you got a lot of energy. It's a lot of passion. You're jumping around, and there's big slides, and there's jokes and everything. It's like I was just like the different context of how we show up. I guess it does come back to the scenario, but I was just thinking of the differences, right, and how we show up, different circumstances. So I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but it's just something I was thinking about as we spoke. Was there anything you would add on, now that we've kind of come full circle to our conversation today?
I think just to comment on that, I think that we were like 5 years ago, we were much into we have a rock band, we drink beer, we party hard, blah, 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 all these things, which is like, it's fun. But we were also kind of like, we didn't like think about this is going to be the brand of SNASK. We were just like doing what we were doing, putting things out. Now I think we're more like, okay, now we realize, okay, that was kind of like we gave only one version of ourselves. And this version we're talking here has always been there, but we didn't put that out. And in that sense, showing up in different colors, I think that we feel also that it's important that people see that there's something else as well. Yes, we do listen to rock music and we do like beer, but we also like deep discussions or talking about things. I think I just wanted to add that to your
the soul. It's so important. The soul behind the business. Like there's always a party in the back for sure, but the deeper core, there's much more, right? For sure. And I think that kind of wraps up with branding, right? We have to go deeper and ask questions and peel back those layers to find the soul.
We got that memo wrong, so we were like, we put out the party in the front, and then we were like doing the work in the back. We did the opposite for a very long time. But but that again, we always worked with like transparency in many ways. But we, like Freddie said, we were just like doing that, and we didn't think about it that much. That it was maybe what type of image it also created, or like that we have more we can talk about. But an interesting part connecting to our like to the industry and especially in the beginning of the first years of SNASK was that like we had that like, okay, we had a bit like attitude in the stuff we did, but we also had like a kind of like flamboyant side in it, like how we showed ourselves. We were wearing like this weird clothes, and we used the color pink all the time, and like these things that again for us was just fun and normal, and we were like having a fun time and in like the design world. But then like all our clients in the first years they were all women. Like it was like the men, the macho thing that was still going on a lot then. They couldn't, like, if we sat down with this like guys, we never been good at like connecting with those like the guys who does that type of thing, like super ultra cool and and they want the status thing going on. We never like got them that thing, and then often they started a meeting, then like, oh yeah, but what's your turnaround? That was like the first question we got in a creative meeting about some concept. We were like, why are you asking that? Because they felt like they had to something with us too, that they couldn't. I think they got a bit like afraid of us, almost, that we were not like, we weren't playing that game, but we were more like stupid and not understanding it. We were just like doing our own thing. But with the female leaders and so that we met, then we could like sit and we started talking about things, and then we had a great time. And I think it's like maybe like the 10 first clients were all female and stuff like that.
So how have you turned things around since then?
How we turned it around? I have a full circle thing about male and pink, just because pink is our color, and we all like our whole bar and workshop area and after workplace is pink. Everything is pink. And we saw a study done where they said that men who hang around in a very pink room gets weaker. And we were like, this is interesting. How come? And it turns out that the testosterone levels go down a bit in a pink room, they say. And then we felt that that's probably making men stronger, because that's a lot of like blockage often to like being more vulnerable, being able to not like be the big alpha male in the room or whatever. So in our sense, we feel that the color pink is probably makes guys stronger rather than weaker. But yeah, so that's
Jacob, we're pleased to hear that.
He
loves flamingo pink.
Love to hear that. All right. Well, I think we're getting on time. So I'm just wondering if there's anything else you would like to add, any insights, parting words.
Great talk with you guys. We've been me and Erik talking a lot, of course, but it's very, very nice talking to you guys, and very thankful for being here with you.
Likewise. Well, thank you for joining us, Frederick and Erik. Where can people find you?
It's just the Instagram, SNASK STLM, or our website, snask.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.